Losing a spouse is one of the most profound and painful experiences a person can face. It brings not only immense emotional grief, but also a sudden deluge of decisions for the bereaved. In moments of pain, loneliness, or external pressure, it's easy to act hastily and make ill-considered choices. However, some of these decisions can lead to deep regrets, severe financial difficulties, or even emotional breakdowns, significantly complicating the healing process. While grief is deeply personal, certain aspects require careful consideration before making final choices. This discussion will explore 5 key actions to avoid after losing a spouse. These often unconscious mistakes only later reveal that one wasn't truly ready for such steps. Knowing about these potential pitfalls beforehand can protect one's emotional, financial, and physical well-being. The recommendations aim to help navigate this difficult life stage with clarity, dignity, and adequate support. 1. Making major financial decisions too soon. One of the most common mistakes made after losing a spouse is rushing into major financial decisions. This is understandable. One suddenly faces the need to manage bank accounts, insurance policies, investments, and perhaps even decide on keeping or selling the family home. In the throes of deep grief, immediate action might seem to bring stability or restore a sense of control. However, grief clouds judgment, and making irreversible financial decisions too soon can lead to deep regrets later. When emotions are at their peak, choices that seem logical and sound at the moment may prove far from ideal in the long run. Many widows and widowers experience significant pressure from well-meaning friends, financial advisors, or even an internal sense of urgency, pushing them to sell their home, relocate, or make large investments. However, the months following a spouse's death are a period for emotional adaptation and processing loss, not for taking financial risks. The wisest step is to pause. Allow yourself enough time to grieve before making decisions that could impact the rest of your life. Consider the case of 74-year-old Margaret. After her husband's death, many advised her to downsize immediately. The idea seemed reasonable. Less space to maintain, lower expenses, and a chance for a new beginning. Within months, she sold the home they had shared for 40 years and moved to a smaller apartment in another city. But once the initial shock of loss subsided, she realized she had made the decision in a state of panic. She missed her familiar surroundings, her neighbors, and the comfort her home provided. Looking back, she deeply regretted not waiting longer before taking such a significant step. Financial decisions extend beyond real estate. Many newly widowed individuals become targets for financial predators, those who see another's vulnerability as an opportunity for personal gain. Whether it's unsolicited investment offers, aggressive sales tactics, or even well-meaning but uninformed advice from friends, it's crucial to exercise extreme caution. If someone insists you quickly sign documents, make a large withdrawal, or invest in something, take a step back and consider everything carefully. The best financial decisions are rarely made in haste. Another common mistake is divesting money or assets too quickly. Grief often brings a strong desire to help others: children, grandchildren, charities, or close friends. While generosity is admirable, prematurely making large financial gifts or dividing assets can leave one vulnerable in the future. What seems manageable now might prove unsustainable and insufficient in later years. Before making any significant financial moves, it's always best to consult a trusted professional who understands the long-term needs of the bereaved and can help plan wisely for the future. The period following the loss of a life partner, especially the first year, should be entirely dedicated to achieving internal stability, not making radical financial changes. Psychology and finance experts often advocate for the one-year rule, which suggests waiting at least 12 months before making any irreversible decisions regarding material well-being. This approach provides the necessary time for the initial, overwhelming emotional shock to subside, allowing one to clearly consider what will truly be best for their future. Losing a spouse is, in itself, one of life's most challenging and painful transitions. The last thing needed at such a time is the added burden of stress caused by avoidable financial missteps. Therefore, it's crucial not to rush. Actively seek reliable and competent advice, and always remember, there is no urgency in making life-altering financial decisions. The wisest and most balanced steps are taken with a clear mind, not under the pressure of overwhelming grief. 2. Isolating from friends and family. After losing a spouse, it's natural to want to withdraw. Grief is a deeply intimate and personal experience, and sometimes solitude seems the only way to cope with unbearable pain. However, despite the importance of time spent alone, complete detachment from friends and family can lead to an even deeper sense of loneliness, significantly hindering the healing process. Many unconsciously fall into a habit of isolation, convincing themselves they just need more time to recover. The truth is, isolation can quickly become a persistent pattern that's incredibly difficult to break later. Human connections play a crucial role in maintaining emotional well-being, especially during profound loss. When people distance themselves from others for too long, they often experience heightened feelings of sadness, anxiety, and even a decline in physical health. Scientific studies have shown that prolonged social isolation can weaken the immune system, raise blood pressure, and even shorten overall life expectancy. Conversely, maintaining connections, even in small ways, can help ease the emotional burden and provide much-needed support. Consider the example of 78-year-old Walter. After the death of his wife, with whom he had been married for 52 years, he completely stopped answering phone calls, ignored family gatherings, and rarely left his home. He convinced himself he simply wasn't in the mood for company, that others couldn't understand the depth of his grief, and that being alone was easier. Months passed, and instead of feeling relief, his condition only worsened. Days blurred together, his energy levels plummeted, and even his appetite significantly changed. It wasn't until a neighbor persistently invited him for coffee that something shifted. That single conversation gradually evolved into a weekly habit, then a small but regular routine of meeting friends. The more he socialized, the easier things became. This wasn't because the pain of loss disappeared, but because he realized he wasn't alone in his grief. The key to overcoming isolation isn't forcing yourself into large social events before you're ready. It's about taking small, consistent steps to maintain connection. Whether it's answering a phone call, taking a short walk with a friend, or even joining a support group, these minor actions can prevent a descent into deep loneliness. If you don't feel like talking, that's perfectly normal. Simply being around people, even if it's just passively listening to a conversation, can help remind you that life continues and support is available when needed. Another common mistake many make is pushing away those who care the most. Sometimes grief brings irritability, exhaustion, or the feeling that others simply can't understand what the bereaved person is going through. However, completely withdrawing from loved ones can create an unnecessary distance between you and those who genuinely want to help. They might not have the perfect words, but their very presence can make a huge difference. By allowing them to be there, little by little, you can find comfort even when words fail. It's also crucial to seek support from those with similar experiences. Connecting with others who have faced similar loss, whether through a grief support group, a community gathering, or even an online forum, can be incredibly healing. Talking to people who truly understand what you're going through can validate your feelings and reassure you that you're not alone in your grief. Grief doesn't follow a schedule, and there's no single right way to heal. However, complete isolation only complicates this journey. Finding small ways to reconnect with others at your own pace can bring strength, support, and even moments of unexpected joy. It's important to remember that you don't have to carry the burden of loss alone. There are people who care, who want to be there, and who can help you move forward one step at a time. 3. Ignoring your own health and well-being. When experiencing the death of a spouse, many become so deeply immersed in grief that they completely neglect their own health. Amidst loss, it's easy to postpone doctor's appointments, skip meals, or disregard usual daily routines. Some even feel guilty for self-care, as if prioritizing their well-being somehow diminishes the depth of their love for the deceased or the intensity of their grief. However, the harsh reality is that neglecting your physical and mental state doesn't bring you closer to the one you've lost. On the contrary, it only significantly complicates your path forward. Grief impacts the human body in ways many don't realize. Research consistently shows that spousal loss significantly increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, weakens the immune system, and can even lead to cognitive impairment. The stress accompanying grief can trigger elevated blood pressure, severe sleep disturbances, and changes in appetite. Some lose all interest in food, while others turn to unhealthy comfort foods. Over time, these changes can seriously undermine both physical and mental health. The key in such a situation is not to expect an instant return to normal well-being, but to take small, consistent steps that help your body remain strong during this exceptionally difficult period. Consider the example of 81-year-old James. After his wife's death, he completely stopped cooking for himself. He convinced himself he simply wasn't hungry, and when he did eat, it was usually something quick and processed. Within months, he began to feel increasing weakness, developed sleep problems, and was constantly tired. His daughter, noticing these changes, persuaded him to start eating regularly again, even if his appetite was absent. Once he made small adjustments to his diet, such as preparing simple nutritious meals and drinking more water, he found his energy levels significantly improved, his mood stabilized, and he became much better at coping with the emotions accompanying grief. Self-care isn't limited to nutrition. It includes physical activity, adequate sleep, and maintaining emotional health. Many who lose a spouse stop exercising, not because they don't want to stay active, but because they no longer have someone to do it with. However, physical activity, even just a short daily walk, is proven to effectively reduce stress, improve mood, and even contribute to a longer lifespan. In some cases, joining a local walking or exercise group can provide both physical benefits and much-needed social connection. Another common mistake is neglecting medical checkups. Many widows and widowers skip routine doctor's visits or delay seeking medical attention because they feel too overwhelmed. But it's precisely during this time that caring for your health becomes more critical than ever. If you haven't seen a doctor in a while, schedule an appointment promptly. Regular checkups, proper management of existing conditions, and timely medication can significantly impact your overall physical and emotional well-being. Mental health is just as crucial as physical health. Grief can lead to depression, anxiety, and even feelings of hopelessness, especially when combined with isolation. If you're struggling, don't hesitate to seek help. Talking to a therapist, joining a grief support group, or even just having an honest conversation with a trusted friend can bring significant relief and reassurance. There's no need to go through this alone, and seeking support isn't a sign of weakness, but a vital step toward healing. Your departed spouse undoubtedly would have wanted you to take care of yourself. Honoring their memory doesn't mean sacrificing your own well-being. It means continuing to live in a way that allows you to find moments of peace and strength. It's perfectly natural to grieve, to take your time, and to feel the full weight of your loss. But amidst it all, it's important to remember that your own health still matters. You are still here, and your well-being is worth protecting. 4. Entering new relationships too quickly. Losing a spouse leaves an emotional void that many feel is impossible to fill. The loneliness that follows is one of the hardest parts of grief, and the idea of finding a new life partner might seem like the only way to cope. While there's nothing wrong with desiring companionship, one of the most common mistakes made by widows and widowers is rushing into new relationships before they have fully processed their grief. The emotions of loss can create a deep need for comfort and intimacy. However, making serious romantic decisions too soon can lead to even more heartache, confusion, and regret. Grief doesn't follow a strict timeline, and everyone heals at their own pace. Some people need years before they even consider dating again, while others feel ready sooner. But when emotions are still raw, the risk of entering a relationship for the wrong reasons significantly increases. Many unconsciously seek a partner not because they are truly ready for a new relationship, but because they aim to replace what was lost, escape loneliness, or run from pain. These relationships often begin with intense emotions, but lack the stability needed for long-term success. Consider the case of 72-year-old Barbara. Just a few months after losing her husband of nearly 50 years, she met someone through a friend and quickly entered a relationship. At first, it seemed to be the companionship she desperately needed. Someone to talk to, share meals with, and distract her from overwhelming loneliness. However, over time, Barbara began to realize she wasn't truly ready for a new relationship. Things moved faster than she expected, and she soon felt trapped in something that felt wrong. Ultimately, she had to step back and take time for herself. Looking back, she deeply regretted not giving herself more time before making such a significant decision. New relationships should be built on genuine connection, not merely serve as a source of emotional relief. When one has spent decades with a spouse, habits, routines, and shared memories become deeply ingrained. Entering a relationship before processing that loss can lead to unfair comparisons, unrealistic expectations, and feelings of guilt. Some widows and widowers even face conflicting emotions, a desire to move forward, yet feeling as though they are betraying the person they lost. These feelings are natural, but they need to be acknowledged and worked through before embarking on something new. Another concern is vulnerability to individuals with ill intentions. Unfortunately, there are those who prey on grieving people, offering emotional support only to later manipulate or financially exploit them. Scammers, and even well-meaning but opportunistic individuals, often seek out widowed seniors, knowing they may be emotionally fragile and in need of companionship. This is why it's crucial to trust your instincts and take your time. If someone pressures you to commit quickly, make financial decisions, or distance yourself from friends and family, these are red flags that should not be ignored. This doesn't mean you should avoid love or companionship forever. Many widows and widowers do find meaningful relationships later in life. But the healthiest and most fulfilling relationships emerge when both individuals are truly ready, when the decision comes from a place of healing, not desperation. Time and reflection are key. Taking time to process grief, rediscover your personal identity, and find peace in solitude before seeking a new partner is immensely important. If you do decide to date again, do so at your own pace. Take time to understand what you truly want in a relationship and ensure you're entering it for the right reasons. It's important to talk to trusted friends or family members about your feelings and not feel pressured by anyone's opinions, whether they think it's too soon or that you shouldn't be alone. The decision remains yours and yours alone. Ultimately, grief and healing are deeply personal journeys. There's no rush, no timeline, and no rulebook. The most important thing is to take care of yourself first, so that if and when the time comes, any new relationship you enter is built on a foundation of strength, peace, and true companionship. 5. Holding on to every possession without letting go. One of the hardest things after losing a spouse is deciding what to do with their belongings. Every item holds memories, and the thought of letting go can feel like losing them again. Many widows and widowers struggle with this, keeping every piece of clothing, every personal item, and every small trinket exactly as it was. They fear that moving or changing anything means erasing their shared life. While the desire to hold on to things is understandable, keeping everything indefinitely can sometimes make grief even heavier, hindering emotional healing and the ability to move forward. Keeping some sentimental items is perfectly natural. There's no rule that says you must get rid of everything. But leaving an entire home untouched for years, keeping their wardrobe exactly as it was, or avoiding any changes can turn a home into a shrine of grief rather than a place of comfort. Over time, instead of bringing peace, this can serve as a daily reminder of what was lost, making it harder to adapt to a new chapter of life. Consider the case of 76-year-old Harold. After his wife of 55 years passed away, He left everything exactly as she had it. Her shoes stood by the door, her clothes remained in the closet, and her favorite armchair was untouched. At first, this seemed like a way to keep her close. But as months passed, he realized that walking past her untouched belongings daily kept him in the same emotional state. He wasn't ready to get rid of everything, but when he slowly began to donate some items, keeping only a few meaningful ones, he felt a sense of relief. It wasn't about forgetting, but about creating space for healing. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or loving less. It means giving yourself room to breathe. Instead of trying to hold on to every single item, it's recommended to choose a few of the most meaningful keepsakes, perhaps a piece of jewelry, a handwritten note, or a favorite photograph, and create a special, honored place for them. Then, when you feel internally ready, you can gradually begin to sort through other belongings, carefully deciding what truly holds deep significance and what simply takes up space. Another common mistake people make is succumbing to pressure from others to get rid of things before they are ready. Friends or family members may have the best intentions, suggesting you clear out space or move on. However, this decision should always be made at your own pace. If you're not ready, don't rush. At the same time, it's important to remember that clinging excessively to every item, driven by guilt or fear, can keep you in a state of deep sadness longer than necessary for healing. There's also an emotionally balanced approach involving repurposing rather than simply removing items. Some people find comfort in turning an old shirt into a quilt, transforming a collection of letters into a memory book, or passing sentimental items to loved ones who will genuinely cherish them. In this way, the presence of the departed person is maintained, but in a form that brings warmth and memories, not just sadness. Ultimately, the essence of grief isn't about material possessions. It's about the love, the memories, and the deep connection shared. No item can replace a person, but clinging to everything they owned won't bring them back either. Letting go of things in small, thoughtful steps isn't an act of forgetting. It's a step toward honoring the departed's memory, while also creating space for your own healing. Moving forward doesn't mean moving away from them. It simply means carrying them with you in a way that allows love and life to coexist harmoniously. Concluding thoughts. Losing a spouse is one of the most profound and agonizing experiences in a person's life. It changes everything: how one lives, how one thinks, and even how one views their future. But amidst overwhelming grief, it's crucial to remember that every decision made during this period has the power to either aid or hinder the healing process. This is why avoiding the 5 mistakes mentioned, rushing financial decisions, isolating from loved ones, neglecting personal health, entering new relationships too quickly, and clinging to every possession without change, can significantly impact one's ability to move forward with inner strength and clarity. Grief has no timeline, and there's no single right or wrong way to experience it. But one thing is certain: avoiding these common pitfalls can help you navigate this challenging chapter of life in a way that protects both your heart and your future. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, and moving forward doesn't mean leaving your spouse behind. It means honoring their memory in a way that allows you to continue living with purpose, peace, and even joy in the moments ahead.